You want your home to be your only option because it's the only place you want to live, not because it's the only place you can live. Now, if you're Black, and I am, process. Some places are going to be quick relatively, and they will say 2 years if you meet certain requirements. Some places will say 4 or 5. Some places will say 10. And some places will never give you citizenship. We've all seen citizenship and residency content that focuses on six-figure investments. That is not how people who actually build real residency and visa options do it, because they can't. If you're not a millionaire, the real strategy is sequencing. So strategically stacking residencies and citizenship pathways over time by leveraging what you have available to you at your price point. In this video, I'm going to show you how to build a residency and citizenship passport portfolio so you're never stuck with only one option for where to call home. So your goal with a passport portfolio or a passport and residency portfolio is to build multiple pathways to permanent residency or citizenship. Why is this all important? Because having options equals having a safety net. You want your home to be your only option because it's the only place you want to live, not because it's the only place you can live. So what that would look like, for example, is you would start with the citizenship that you have. If you have US citizenship, you want to add some more layers and options on top of that. So first layer, I call layer 1. It doesn't mean that it is your option B or your plan 2, but it would be citizenship by heritage or marriage. So this is citizenship that you can get without moving to a particular country, and that you kind of get automatically just because you are a descendant of someone from that country or you married a national of that country. So France, Spain, Portugal, Italy, Ireland, Mexico, Panama, Colombia, all of these places have this kind of citizenship. And so if you qualify, this would be a good layer 1. Some of the hurdles, depending on which citizenship by heritage or by marriage you're getting, can be a lot easier than others. So you are going to want to research your ancestry. African countries often offer citizenship by descent. European countries, I kind of named them earlier, some of them, and Caribbean nations also do this. And then the second piece is and/or marriage or partnership. If you're partnered with a foreign national, you can often get citizenship through your spouse, often with like a 2 to 5 year timeline, often without even having to live there. Everyone's situation is going to be different, but I think another thing is that sometimes you don't even have to actually be legally married. They just need to be, I guess, kind of like common law married, I guess is the way that I would describe it. So look into it, look into your situation and see what you qualify for. This is the freest or lowest cost way to get another citizenship or residency pathway. It probably will not require you to move, and to give you a second passport while you're still planning and making moves in other spaces. Layer 2 would be residency somewhere you don't have to be full-time. There are places that have 6, 8, 10-month requirements for you if you get residency there. There are places that have none. So places like Mexico and Panama, where you can acquire residency if you meet the requirements, and then it's up to you if and when you go there. I will talk about the Mexico example because I have Mexican residency. Some of the reasons why I have it is some of the reasons why I think it's a really good Plan B option. They do have financial requirements, but you can use your retirement accounts to qualify. You get temporary residency without having to live there for a certain number of days. So I can go back, and I do go back and forth between the US and Mexico, visiting different parts of the country, getting to know it a little bit better. That temporary residency is a path to permanent residency. After 4 years of temporary, it converts to permanent, in which case you don't ever have to go back if you don't want to. Now, a caveat about Mexico is that with citizenship, there's a certain amount of time you can't be out of the country, from what I understand. And so if you got far enough through the process and then we're deciding, you should keep that in mind. I have read of someone who ended up going outside of the country before the pandemic, and because of the pandemic could not get back, and they had to start all the way back at one. Brian McKnight reference. These visas are going to be visas that cost way less than golden visas, and they are going to help you establish your plan B or your exit option while you figure out either where specifically in that country you want to live or what other country you really want to be in for the long term. And then the third layer would be residency plus hopefully an eventual citizenship path for where you do plan to move. So this is maybe a little counterintuitive, but layer 1, 2, 3. Layer 3 is actually what you're going to be using immediately. Layer 2 could be that backup, and then layer 1 could be the backup to the backup. That's going to be deeply personal, as with all of these, where you end up moving. There are different kinds of visas for different types of situations, digital nomad visas of various types, retirement visas of various types, which don't always have as strenuous requirements as a golden visa might have in terms of how much money you have to show up front. But they are places that you can find your peace, that you have done your due diligence on, that you've reflected and decided are the best place or is the best place for you and for your family. And I think just to keep in mind the things that you need to evaluate when you're figuring out what this layer of your passport portfolio is going to be is, can you afford to live there comfortably? What's the cost of living looking like? What's the timeline to permanent residency / citizenship? Some places are going to be quick relatively, and they will say 2 years if you meet certain requirements. Some places will say 4 or 5. Some places will say 10. And some places will never give you citizenship. And so it's important to understand that and understand what your goals are for moving to this place as your primary new home base. Now, if you're Black, and I am, I think about what are the experiences of Black people in this space, the community of African descent in this space. What are the experiences of other communities of color as I define them? And how would I fit into that dynamic? Is that something that I can live with for the rest of my life? And finally, does this place give you access to a region that you want? Different strokes for different folks, different requirements, different needs. But answering these questions should lead you to where your hoped for final destination should be. How do you build this passport portfolio over time? You might end up with a timeline that spans a few years, maybe 1 to 3 years, maybe 2 to 5 years. But that year 1 obviously is getting those foundational pieces, the heritage passport, the marriage passport, the easier in comparison residency, while you're also in perhaps years 1 and 2 going on scouting trips, whittling down your move abroad shortlist to your final destination and taking into account what the visa and residency requirements are going to be for that location. And once you have the initial ones done, working on those application materials and whatever else you need in order to qualify for that visa. So there you have it. You don't need to be a millionaire to build options and to build a passport portfolio. You just need to be strategic about stacking residencies and citizenships that lead somewhere. What's in your portfolio already, and what are you working toward? I'd love to hear about it in the comments. Thank you for watching. I'll see you next time.